والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Inshallah, today we're going to take our third session in the tafsir of the Quran, and we're already in Surah Al-Baqarah. And Surah Al-Baqarah, we said, is the longest surah. You guys remember it's Surah Madaniyya, right? It was revealed after Hijrah. And probably some scholars say it was, like some of the verses of the Baqarah were revealed immediately after Hijrah. So the first surah that was started, or the revelation of that surah was started after Hijrah, was actually Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay, and we said the revelation of Surah Al-Baqarah continued in segments until probably the last bit, the last few months of the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And really, like, by the way, putting the Baqarah as straight after Surah Al-Fatiha at the beginning of the Quran is from Allah. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, last Ramadan in his life, he says to Aisha radiyallahu anha, كان جبريل ينزل إلي فيتدارس معي القرآن أو فأعرض عليه القرآن مرة في رمضان وقد نزل علي هذا العام فعرضت عليه مرتين. Jibreel came to me, he used to come to me every Ramadan, and I would sort of study the Quran with him and recite it to him to make sure it's intact and clear and perfect. Every Ramadan once. The Prophet says, this Ramadan, Jibreel went over the Quran, reviewed the Quran with me twice. 2 times. So the Prophet says, وَمَا أَرَاهُ إِلَّا أَجَلِي قَدْ حَانَ. And I can only see this to mean that my time has come. It's time for me to die. That was the last Ramadan the Prophet ﷺ witnessed in his life. So, and when Jibreel came to him, he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, put Surah Al-Baqarah here, put Surah Ali Imran here, Surah Al-Nisa. He gave him the order of the Quran. So also some of the verses were not in a specific place from Surah Al-Baqarah. So Jibreel told the Prophet ﷺ, and that's obviously from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, put these 2 verses right here in this position in Surah Al-Baqarah, and so on and so forth. So this is why the scholars say, ترتيب السور وقفي وترتيب الآيات وقفي, meaning the order of the surahs and the order of the verses in each surah is from Allah. Is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is a reason why Al-Baqarah is put right at the beginning of the Quran after Surah Al-Fatiha. And it's actually, Surah Al-Baqarah is a very beautiful and great introduction into Islam. Really, it's a very comprehensive introduction into Islam. And sometimes if we read without so much attention, like if we just want to read the words, we are going to miss out on this. But if you read Surah Al-Baqarah carefully, you see how it actually introduces Islam, and it also tells us about what life really is. Really, Surah Al-Baqarah introduces the meaning of life to us so beautifully. Probably today we're going to touch on this. Like sometimes, by the way, some weeks we will go into the specific meanings of each verse. Some weeks we will take some sort of a look at the bigger picture. Take a helicopter kind of view from above to see how everything ties in together nicely. So today we're going to probably mix both. So we said Surah Al-Baqarah starts specifically with classifying people into 3 types, right? The believers, al-mu'minun, those are going to be muflihun, successful, they will end up in paradise. Number 2, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those who disbelieve, they reject faith, right? Non-believers. Those people, they have made their minds up. Whether you give them true evidence or not, they're not going to be convinced. They've decided not to accept. Number 3, what's the third type of people Surah Al-Baqarah tells us about? Al-Munafiqun. Those who pretend and claim to be believers when they are actually not. And these are the ones that Allah elaborates about and He speaks in detail. Why? Because this is the most dangerous type of people. And subhanAllah, instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starting Surah Al-Baqarah by mentioning what is the message of the Quran, Allah starts by mentioning how people respond to the message of the Quran before He gives the message of the Quran. And that's interesting, by the way. That's really interesting. Like instead of Allah stating right at the beginning what the message is, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the three types of people based on their response to the message of Allah. So the first type, the believers, accept the message. The second type, refuse the message, reject the message, which are the الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. The munafiqeen, they reject the message, but they pretend that they have accepted it. Then after that, after Allah explains about these people, He is going to introduce what is the message of the Quran. Straightforward. Allah is going to give it so clearly, so beautifully. And this is basically really like, this is everything about the message. The gist of the message is put in this beautiful verse, and Allah addresses humanity. So this is an address from Allah to humanity. We're going to come to it today, inshallah. But before this, we concluded last time with the description of the hypocrites. We said that their minds are messed up because they've lied. They tried to lie. We said they tried to lie to Allah, pretending that they believe. They think they are deceiving Allah, and they think they deceive others. Because of these lies, they ended up lying to themselves. They can't see the truth. They can't see the reality of their actions. That's why when they do something, they think it's good, but it's actually bad, but they can't see. Why? Because they've lied to themselves so much that they ended up even lying to themselves and not realizing it. And by the way, this is really a dangerous thing about lying. If there's a person who lies a lot, do you know how Allah punishes them? And by the way, this is a general rule in Islam. Al-jaza'u min jins al-amal. Al-jaza' min jins al-amal. The punishment is of the same kind of your sin. Like you make a sin, Allah doesn't like bring something external and punish you with something external. No. Whatever you do, Allah is going to punish you with the same thing. That's the wisdom of Allah. The person who lies, they lie and lie and lie. How does Allah punish them? Allah punishes them in a way that they start lying to themselves without realizing it. So they can't see the truth. Because they hide the truth from others, Allah hides the truth from them. They can't see the truth of anything. And this is where their minds will be messed up. So that's how Allah describes the hypocrites. If it's said to them, do not spread corruption, they say, we're spreading something good, we're doing something good. They can't see the evil of what they do. They can't see the negative consequences of what they do. Why? Jaza'an wifaqa. A fair punishment, just punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah says as well that they look down upon others. They look down upon others. And these are important, traits that you have to watch for, by the way, in people. You have to watch for people, because the Prophet ﷺ told us how you can detect a hypocrite. How can you tell a hypocrite? Allah gives us descriptions here that these people are messed up. They think they're doing something good, but they're actually doing something bad. These people are hypocrites. Something else Allah says about them, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسِ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ. If it is said to them, believe like the people have believed, he said the companions, they would say, shall we believe like these fools? A hypocrite usually looks down upon others. They have contempt, disrespect, they have bad language, they have bad mannerism, a bad attitude towards others. So if you find someone, usually when people are absent, this person, he or she talks bad about others, be careful. Be careful. Be careful. And they say, like, if someone talks bad about others in their absence in front of you, when you're not there, he's going to say, do the same to you. So be careful. Be careful. So again, this is a description of the hypocrites. A third description, Allah says that these people, they think, or they're trying to make fun, and they're trying to mock at Allah and the believers. That's why they pretend. Okay? But Allah says it's going to turn against them again. The punishment matches the sin. They're trying to mock Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the believers by deceiving them. They will end up mocking themselves and deceiving themselves. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mocks at them back. Now, and that's the heart of what we're going to say today. And by the way, something to understand about the Quran. Quran is full of parables. What are parables? Amthal, analogies, parallels, examples. And that's one of the main ways Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains the message in the Quran. And that shows, basically just give an example. Give a parallel to something. Okay? And we're going to see today how that works. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Quran. Allah says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ. And these are the parables. These are the, you can say, similitudes. Because similitudes cause people to think. What is similitude? It's a story that matches what I'm trying to describe to you. And because you know that story, you're able to see how it applies. Okay? So, for example, the Prophet ﷺ says in an authentic hadith, beautiful hadith. He says, مَثَلُ مَا بَعَثَنِ اللَّهُ بِهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْهُدَى كَمَثَلِ غَيْثٍ أَصَابَ أَرْضًا. The Prophet ﷺ says, the example or the parable of the revelation that Allah gave me, which is the Quran and the knowledge of the Sunnah, is like rain. That's a parable. It resembles Quran to the rain. Why? Because rain revives the earth, brings about plants and vegetation. Right? And the Quran revives the hearts. And it brings about Iman. Iman grows in the heart as a tree. As a tree. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, again, that's another parable. Allah says, وَمَثَلُ كَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Allah says the example or the parable of a goodly word. What's the goodly word? La ilaha illallah. كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتْ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. That's Iman. Like the example of a goodly word, a beautiful word, La ilaha illallah, which resembles Iman, is like a tree. Its roots are firm in the ground, and Iman is firm in the heart. And its fruits, the fruits, are shown on the branches. And this is how Iman is. Iman, when it's strong in the heart, when it takes root, it starts to give fruits. What are the good fruits? Good deeds. Good deeds. You find a person who has true belief, you find them very good with Allah. They pray, they fast, they remember Allah, they recite Quran. You find them very good with people. You find them generous, forgiving, kind, respectful, helpful. That's how Iman is. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about the believers, he says, Al-Muslimu man salib al-Muslimun min lisanihi wa yadihi. The true Muslim is someone who people feel safe. Like, this person is not going to be harmful to others. He's going to hold back the harm. He's not going to smack people. He's not going to defame or slander or insult people. So that shows these are the fruits of Iman. The Prophet ﷺ says, أحب الناس إلى الله أنفعهم للناس. The people that Allah loves the most are the people that are most beneficial to others. If you are helpful to others, if someone is helpful to others, very kind and nice and extremely helpful, the Prophet ﷺ says Allah loves these people the most. Why? Because that's a sign of Iman. It's a sign of a good heart. When someone has a good heart, it's going to reflect in their manners. You can't see someone who's a criminal, someone who backbites people, speaks ill of people, disrespects people, then he says, I have a lot of Iman in my heart. No way. No way. That doesn't, these two things don't go together. Okay? That's what Iman is. So if someone has bad manners, and they claim to have a lot of Iman, that's not true. We can say that emphatically. That's just not true. That's why the Prophet says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to perfect good manners. Because all of these things are linked. Okay. So this is the meaning of parables. Amthal. Amthal. These are parables, examples, parallels that Allah gives so we can understand what Allah is talking about. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now wants to describe, He gives us two parables to describe the state of the hypocrites. Two parables. The parable of the fire and the parable of the rain. Fire and rain, and how people relate to them. And before I go into these two parables, so first we're going to start with the parable of the fire. And by the way, these are two examples we have to understand. By the way, they occur a few times in the Quran. Ibn Taymiyyah, he calls them al-mathal al-nari wal-mathal al-ma'i. The parable of the fire and the parable of the water, meaning the rain. The Prophet ﷺ, we said in the hadith, he says, the revelation I was given is similar to the rain. Okay? So revelation is like rain. Why? Because it brings life. It brings life. If you have a dead, barren piece of land that is dry, nothing grows in it, after a few years of famine, then rain falls, this earth is going to come back to life again. And there will be vegetation and growth. And that's what the Quran does to the heart. That's exactly what the Quran does to the heart. The other example is the example of we said the fire. Why the fire? Revelation is pretty much like fire. How is that? Not in a negative sense, in a positive sense. Because fire brings light. Fire brings light. And that's why you will find in the Quran, Allah reveals to Islam and to the Quran as having two things: giving people light and giving people life. Life and light. That's what revelation is. Life and light. If you understand these things, by the way, you'll start to read a lot of the Quran differently. Just, Quran brings about life and light. Al-Haya wal-Nur. That's what the Quran brings. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. Allah says, is the one who had been dead, but then we gave him life, we brought him back to life. And we made light for him. So we gave him life, and we gave him light. Is he like someone is he like someone who's in the darkness? Are these two people similar? Someone who has life and light, and someone has darkness. Are they similar? No. Not. The one in the darkness cannot find their way. So Allah here is talking about the people who believe, those who accept the revelation. Allah has given them life and light. And by the way, in order to be a good Muslim, you need these two things: life of the heart and light. And the Prophet ﷺ was sent to bring about these two things, by the way. The mission of the Prophet ﷺ was to give people life and light. I'm not saying this for myself.